I've climbed the Forbidden Peak and the Rwenzori Mountains. For the project Peaks of Africa, I've been traveling around the continent in search of the 10 highest peaks. These peaks are found in Tanzania with the Kilimanjaro, in Kenya with Mount Kenya, and the remaining 8 are all located in the Rwenzori Mountains in Uganda. It took me 16 days to reach all the summits, which involved crossing a crevasse during the early morning hours, trying to reach Margherita Peak, walking with armed rangers as the area was dangerous, witnessing unique landscapes and vegetation, and of course, finishing my 9-month-long Peaks of Africa journey. But before I take you with me on this adventure, let's take a little look at the mountains from afar. The Rwenzori Mountains, also known as Mountains of the Moon, are a spectacular mountain range located on the border between Uganda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They are known for their glacier-capped peaks, diverse ecosystems, and stunning scenery. The area spans about 7,800 square kilometers, so it's no surprise that they consist of 6 major mountain groups, all with their own peaks. Here are the 8 peaks that I climbed. Mount Emin with the Umberto Peak, Mount Gessi with Lolanda Peak, Mount Speke with Vittorio Emanuele, Mount Stanley with Margherita Peak and Albert Peak, Mount Luigi di Savoia with Weismann Peak and Sella Peak, and finally Mount Baker with Edward Peak. Climbing these peaks is like climbing up and down Mont Blanc 8 times from the Gautier hut to the summit of Mont Blanc. The Rwenzori Mountains have a unique equatorial alpine climate with frequent rainfall and fog. The weather is highly unpredictable, with sudden storms, high humidity and cold temperatures at higher altitudes. Rwenzori is known for the diverse and often challenging terrain, which ranges from dense rainforests and boggy valleys to rocky cliffs, glaciers and steep ridges. Unlike the Kilimanjaro and Mount Kenya, which are volcanoes, the landscape in the Rwenzori is shaped by tectonic uplift, erosion and glacial activity, making it one of the most unique and difficult trekking destinations in Africa. The lower elevations are extremely muddy, with deep bogs in the header zone, and as you make your way up, rain and fog make the rocks dangerously slick. The high altitude makes trekking physically demanding, with the risks of altitude sickness. Some ascents are steep, requiring rope-assisted climbs. Ice climbing and technical mountaineering skills are required for summiting peaks like Margherita Peak. Enough facts and stats for now, and join me on my journey up to the Mountains of the Moon. We started off with a long hike from Nyakalenjia to Nyabitaba and from there to John Matta Camp, crossing through the jungle. One thing that already made this trip unusual is the fact that we had armed rangers walking with us during our time in this mountain range.
And Didrik, how are you doing?
Fine.
That wasn't meant to keep wildlife away, since there are hardly any animals around, and definitely no predators that pose a threat to humans. The ranges had to do with the ongoing conflict between Congo and Uganda. There are dangerous rebel groups on the Congo side of the mountains, and the tough terrain makes it a perfect hiding spot. That's why the government makes it mandatory to have armed rangers to protect us. Besides that, and also the heat of the sun, the hike provided a good introduction of what the terrain and scenery was like. Thick tropical rainforest with wooden bridges crossing the Mobuko River, and waterfalls where we could refresh for a bit. At John Matta Camp, we slept in huts, getting plenty of rest before heading to Skull Cave, a hideout locals avoid because of the mysterious skeleton that was found there. Having my first look at the highest peaks of the Rwenzori Mountains made me excited to climb them. So we did not waste time and we left early in the morning. I greeted the armed rangers.
Morning.
How are you?
Fine.
You slept good?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Here's Didrik. How are you?
Fine, how is it?
And we marched on towards the controversial cave. We took a little break, checked our gear and had some lunch before proceeding with the hike through the jungle. Het is echt een sprookje waarin je wandelt eigenlijk constant omringd door bergen en door heel speciale vegetatie. Ja, super dankbaar dat ik dit hier kan ondernemen. I was truly amazed by the surrounding vegetation. There are lobelia and dendrosenescio plants everywhere you look. It was so densely grown that we often had to zigzag around them at all times during the trip, at least at these heights. After a 12-hour hike through the jungle, we were relieved to arrive at Skull Cave, where we camped out for the coming night. We set up camp and had a cozy dinner with the whole team. The next day, we continued to rock shelter, where we did the same. Set up the tent and prepared for the next day, where we tackled our first mountain, Mount Emin, with Umberto Peak. That moment, it started raining non-stop, and rain at the base means snow on the top. Ze hebben het niet makkelijk gemaakt vandaag. We zijn Emin aan het beklimmen. En het is echt foggy. Sneeuw, geen pad. Super slippery. Ja, het is echt keihard om eerlijk te zien. Ja, hopelijk houden we het vol of we moeten de gids niet terugkeren. De weg naar boven is één iets, maar de weg naar beneden wordt echt wel een challenge, denk ik. The circumstances on the hike up felt like a brutal introduction to the entire expedition. Despite of that, we made it up to the top. Mount Emin. Yes. Check. After Mount Emin, we had to go back all the way down to tackle Mount Gessi the day after. The terrain we had to cross was very rocky, uneven and also covered in moss, so we really needed to watch every step. Because the mountain is so jagged, we had to use both hands and feet to climb, making it really exhausting. Nonetheless, we made it to the summit, so we could watch the Rwenzori Mountains from above in all its glory. After Mount Gessi, we descended into Bujuku Valley, which was nestled right between Mount Speke, Stanley and Baker. It also featured a glacial lake, which added to the natural beauty of this area. Mount Speke. Ik ben op weg met het team om Mount Speke te beklimmen. Het is voor mij een zeer mythische berg. Kijk hoe prachtig dat hier is. Kijk op die. Vooral zijn er eigenlijk bergen. Komen ze uit de mist tevoorschijn. Uganda is iets magisch, iets dat ik nog nooit heb meegemaakt. This one was a little bit harder as it required rope assistance for the most part of the climb. Once again, we enjoyed particularly cloud-obscured views of the Rwenzori Mountains. After a few moments of taking in the views, we headed back down until the rocky terrain evolved into yellow moss-covered bogs once again. And we moved to Elena camp. Peaks of Africa. The locals fixed my zipper. Then we rested up and prepared ourselves to attempt the highest summit of the Rwenzori, Margherita Peak. After a few hours, we suddenly got a disturbing message from our guides. De Margherita Peak, Alexander en Albert Peak zijn afgesloten omdat er een gigantische crevasse is. We hebben te horen gekregen dat we eigenlijk niet naar boven mogen, wat dan natuurlijk wel niet zo leuk is, want deze 3 bergen stonden echt wel op ons lijstje hier. We zijn eigenlijk met het team aan het kijken om toch naar boven te gaan vannacht, stiekem dan, en te kijken hoe de situatie daar is. Een crevasse heb je in verschillende formaten. Ik zou het natuurlijk met mijn eigen ogen wel willen zien. We hebben alles van touwen, crampons, ijsaxes, ijsschroeven, noem maar op. We hebben eigenlijk alles bij ons om het toch veilig te laten verlopen. Het is best wel spannend, want in theorie mag het niet. For the record, I do not recommend anyone doing what I was trying to do here. Always respect the local rules and safety restrictions when attempting any summit. So we needed to convince the guides and the rangers to try to climb the top of the Margherita Peak, even though it was not allowed. I had one sudden small advantage. Some of the rangers got altitude sickness, so they wouldn't be able to stop me.
Good morning. Het is 1:15 nu en gisteren heb ik de gids een beetje kunnen overtuigen toch om te gaan kijken naar de crevasse boven hier aan de Margherita Peak, zodat de Margherita Peak Alexandra en Albert kunnen doen. Dus ik ben zeer benieuwd, ben zeer excited.
We left at 2 in the morning, making a step into full darkness. The situation was tense, but the motivation was high.
Voorlopig gaat lekker, het weer is goed, een klein beetje bewolkt, dus hopelijk slaat het niet volledig toe. Het is hier best wel spannend, het is absoluut verboden om hier te wandelen richting de Margherita Glacier. En we zien daar de glacier. Hold the rope tightly.
I had been traveling to Africa for way too long to not be able to complete my mission.
Go down. That's why I'm stopping. I don't want to catch by a rock. Yes, right.
At this point, we reached the immense glacier, so we attached our crampons and got ready to traverse the glacier up to the dangerous crevasse. The crevasse was at least 5 meters wide. There was a snow bridge from around half a meter. We were going to cross it one by one, secured with 2 ice screws and ropes. If something went wrong, we would fall 100 meters down, at least.
Oké, ik heb nu juist de crevasse overgestoken. Dat was een dikke meter, maar wel gigantisch diep.
After successfully crossing the crevasse, we continued upwards and were greeted by the rising sun and the beautiful moon.
Ik weet niet wat er aan het gebeuren is, maar we zijn de hoogste berg van Uganda aan het beklimmen. Margherita Peak. De crevasse was toch veel groter dan gedacht, maar ja, we zijn aan het summiten hier. Zo mooi dat is. Beautiful. Na Peak Margherita staan we nu op Mount Albert. Check it out, waar dat we zijn. Het is echt fijn om je heel klein te voelen en hier op de hoogte te zitten.
After making the summit of both Margherita and Albert Peak, we made our way back down through the same track. The Stanley Glacier we are descending from is the last glacier of the Rwenzori Mountains and even the entire continent. And it's melting quickly. It's estimated that this glacier will be completely gone within a few years.
De government heeft echt wel gelijk om die passage, die gigantische crevasse eigenlijk af te sluiten voor klimmers. De Margherita Peak, dat is echt... Dat is echt wel next level. Nu, dit zijn hier de laatste glaciers ook van Uganda achter me. Dat is hier de bekende Margherita Glacier. Ja, het doet toch wel iets om zo over de laatste glacier hier van Uganda te hiken.
Due to the glacier melting rapidly, the conditions were unpredictable, making some parts very wet and slushy. So we really needed to keep focus here while making the descent. Descending down to the glacier felt like walking on another planet. It was steep and uneven, with sections of hard blue ice and softer snow patches.
We zijn er bijna, hè. Het is niet te geloven. De 9e berg staat op het programma. Wat is deze hier? En dat is de Weismann Peak. Van ver leek het niet zo erg, maar als je hier staat is het precies een speer recht naar boven. De vorm is wel redelijk, moet ik zeggen. Ik had gedacht dat ik wel wat stijver ging zijn in de benen na gisteren.
Once again, we climbed up the moss-covered terrain that is so typically for the mountains of the moon. This time to reach the summit of Mount Luigi di Savoia, the Weismann Peak. Same day, we continued on to Sella Peak, number 7 on my list.
Mount Sella.
We moved to Kitandara Lakes camp and prepared to climb the last mountain, Mount Baker with Edward Peak.
We are climbing the last mountain, Mount Baker. I think it's gonna be hard, to be honest. It's I think about 800 to 1000 meter push. It's the last one, the last summit. So let's go. Here we go.
Walking up, ready to reach the last summit, it started to dawn on me that this was the very last one of my Peaks of Africa project.
We are summiting the last mountain of Peaks of Africa. Mount Baker. This one. Is it?
When you stop without good.
Almost there.
Come on, come down.
Woo!
Yes.
Yeah! Yo! Yes. Mount Baker, Edward Peak. Ik kan met volle glorie zeggen dat ik met het team tezamen boven ben geraakt hier op Mount Baker. Meer specifiek de Edward Peak. Fantastisch man, wat een gevoel. Massa's emoties daarnet. Echt ongelooflijk fijn. De laatste berg hier in het Rwenzori gebergte. Ja, ook een beetje het einde van het project. De 10 hoogste bergen van Afrika. What a ride man, what a ride. 25 landen, 9 maanden on the road. Zeker niet van een lijn dakje gelopen allemaal. Waar dat er een wil is er een weg, denk ik altijd. En opgeven zit gewoon niet in het bloed. The last peak of Peaks of Africa over here in Uganda. And it was a beautiful one, Mount Baker. I loved the climb. It's a little bit weird to be here, like, what now?
After making the summit of this last peak of Africa, the feeling was bittersweet. I was just as happy with my achievement as I was sad that the project had come to an end. The 9 months of traveling around this continent of Africa was a trip that I will forever cherish. The hardship, perseverance, friendship, corruption, unique landscapes and people will forever have a place in my heart. And I can safely say I've experienced Africa to the fullest, and I hope it enjoyed my stay too. On that note, thank you so much for watching the video. Please consider dropping a like or subscribe to the channel if you want to stay in the loop for more content in the future. I promise that Africa was only the beginning.